Hello everyone. I hope you all are doing good. I'm Mrs. Tutima Vashistha and today we are meeting for our social science class. In today's class, we will be continuing with the chapter Electoral Politics. If you can remember, in our last class, we talked about what was the system of electoral system in India, where we tried to look into what is general election, what is by-election. We talked about what is the meaning of constituencies, reserved constituencies, and we looked into the different process involved in the election that is conducted in India, right from the voters list, counting of names, uh, or the polling of votes and the counting of votes, campaigning. All those are the different processes that are involved in the election system in India. In today's class, we will be starting with a new topic. Let's get started with the class. All right, so as I said, we are doing electoral politics, and in today's class, your topic will be what makes election democratic in India. Till now, you have understood the meaning of election, you have understood why election is required in India, you have understood till now the different electoral process or system that is involved in India, and now you are going to see what makes this election democratic in India. How do we know that election is conducted in a very democratic way in our country? And from your today's class, your learning outcome will be, you will be towards the end of the class, you will be able to describe the various ways that makes election democratic in India. All right, now what makes elections in India democratic? You might have heard that, in election, lot of unfair practices might take place. Now, what are the different unfair practices? Unfair practices might include inclusion of false names or in the voters list, or excluding of genuine names in the voters list. There can be unfair practices like misuse of government facilities, all right, and officials by the ruling party. There might be another unfair practices like excessive use of money, like the rich candidates. Those rich candidates, they might use lot of money for campaigning. That is also an unfair practice. Another unfair practice might be rigging on the polling day. Rigging means where, sometimes the opposition or some other party might try to cheat on the other party by reducing their votes or by increasing their votes in some way or the other. The false votes might be counted. So these are the various ways of unfair practices that might take place in election. Now, to control such unfair practices, or rather to execute the election in a more democratic way, how it can be conducted in a more democratic way. First of all is the election commission. We all know that there is an election is conducted by whom? By this independent body known as the Election Commission of India. Like no other government officer is involved, the ruling parties people are not involved. It is an independent body. So the Election Commission looks after the entire election process in India. All right, so very few election commissions in the world have such wide ranging powers as the Election Commission of India. So the Election Commission of India has got a lot of powers. All right, now what are the different powers? Powers to take decision right from the uh, right from the nomination of the names of a particular candidate, or conducting and controlling elections, the election process right from the beginning till the announcement of the result, right from the entering of the names in the voters list, or right from the time when the candidate the candidate who will be contesting the election, right from the declaration of that name of the candidate till the declaration of the final result. Every decision related to the election is carried out by the Election Commission in India. It also implements the code of conduct. Code of conduct, as we have already said, some rules and regulations are laid down which has to be followed by the candidates who are contesting the election. All right, and if somebody violates those rules and regulations, they are punishable by the Election Commission. Then during the Election Commission, during the election period, the Election Commission can order the government to follow some guidelines. So the Election Commission has also control over the government during the time of the election period. And some guidelines will be issued by the election commission to be followed by the government to prevent use and enhance its chances to win election or to transfer of some government officials. Now why such guidelines are issued by the election commission? So that it can, so that a particular party cannot influence another party, all right, in some way or the other, some threatening or bribing. So in some way or the other, so that no such kind of unfair practices takes place. That is why certain rules and regulations or guidelines are also laid down by the election commission to the government, which has to be followed. And during the time of election, the government officials can be used, can be called upon or used for the election duty. You might have known, you might have heard from your parents who are in the government jobs, like they go for election duty. So that is what, like, whenever any election takes place, the election commission has the authority to place such government official in election duty, to look to election duty, as in to look after the process, the vote on the voting day, to look into the voting process, so that everything is carried out in a very free and fair manner. Okay, so this is the first way how we consider that election is considered conducted in a democratic way in India, because we have an independent body which conducts election, which is free from any interference of the government, that is the Independent Election Commission. Second one is popular participation. Now, in a democracy, what it is the people who mainly participates, right? So, if the participation of the people is more, if the voters turnout is more, then definitely we can understand that yes, people have come out of their house to choose their government. So, in India, people's participation is usually measured by what? Turnout figures. Turnout means how much is the population who is eligible for vote and how much actually have come to cast their votes. Supposedly, for example, the population is 10,000. If all the 10, like for example, 10,000 people are eligible to vote in a particular constituency, if all the 10,000 people have casted their vote, that means the turnout figure is very good. That means people have come out to cast their vote. All right. So in India, the turnout figure is very good, so it shows that people actually comes out and people chooses their government. But unlike in the western countries like Europe and North America, the turnout figure of people's participation or the turnout figure has declined. On the other hand, in India, it has either remained stable or rather it has gone up. Secondly, in India, the poor and the unprivileged section are, we have a lot of poor people in our country, right? And as we all know, in election, what the main target is the poor people, because the leaders or the candidates who are contesting, they will come and influence the poor people, saying that if you vote for me, we will give you this and that. A lot of promises are made, and these poor people thinking that yes, if we vote this person, maybe our life might change. So that is why in India, because the population of the poor and the unprivileged section is lot, that is why this section of people come out and cast their votes in comparison to the rich and the privileged section. All right. So this is what happens in Western democracy. For example, in the United States of America, poor people, African Americans, Hispanics votes much less than the rich. In the Western countries, the rich people come out much to vote in contrast to the poor people, like the poor African Americans or the Hispanics. But in India, the turnout population of the poor and the underprivileged section is more than the rich section. And in India, if you see the population, the people in the who are poor is more, all right, in comparison to people who are actually rich. So that is why again we can say that the people's participation is good in India, and that is why election is conducted in a democratic way. Thirdly, common people in India attach a lot of importance to election. So in India, if you see at the time of election, it's like a festival going on. People have a lot of attachment with election, all right? They feel that through election, they can bring pressure on political parties to adopt policies and programs favorable to them. So Indian people we are very emotionally attached to anything we do, right? So that is why in India, people also feel that election is the only way through which a change can be brought or certain policies can be introduced which are favorable for the common people. That is why they feel that voting is the only way through which they can change up the existing rules, existing policies of or existing old policies and bring some new policies by voting a new person in the government. Fourthly, so this is also another reason which shows that people are participating, people give importance to election. Fourthly, under popular participation, it says it has seen that a research or a survey has shown that the interest of voting among in India has increased over the years. All right, in 2004 election, more than 1/3 voters took part in campaigning related activities. Then more than half of the people identified as being close to one or the other political party. So as I said, in India, people are very much emotionally attached to the election process or to this entire system of election. Or when this election comes play, you can see the youth coming out of their house, with and helping the political parties in campaignings and all. So the turnout, so the increase, so the participation with any kind of election related activities can be campaigning. All right, people have, and among the youths, it is seen that many youths have come out and they have actively participated in the election related activities. So that is why also we can consider that election is conducted in a very democratic way in India. Why? People's participation is very much more, is more in India. Then the third way whether election is conducted in a democratic way or not is the outcome. Now see, if in a democracy, if for every time the same party keeps on winning over and over again without doing any work, that means we might think that yes, something wrong is there. Why is the same party winning over and over again? But in India, it's not the same case. If we can, the government keeps on changing in after, if not after immediately after 5 years, or maybe after 10 years, it again changes. If a political party is performing really well, they will be voted to power again. So in India, the ruling parties routinely lose. All right, so routinely a political party, an existing ruling government might loses election in India. So losing means what? People have not voted to that political party. That means that people have not liked that political party. That's why they have not voted. So that is why we consider yes, it is democratic. Had that particular political party have won again and again, then it would be what we could have thought that yes, something is wrong. Why the same party is winning over and over again? Maybe some unfair practices might have been used. But in India, we can see that routinely the political parties loses both at national and state level. In fact, in every 2 out of 3 elections held in the last 15 years, the ruling party has lost. So it is in India also, it is seen that the same political party does not keep on ruling the government over and over again. All right, the political parties keeps on changing. So that is the outcome speaks. And also bearing very few dispute, the electoral outcomes are accepted by the defeated party as people's verdict. So in India, if a ruling party, if a government who was ruling for 5 years, then in the next term they did not win the election, they will not go and fight for it. The people accepts it as their defeat, that yes, people may not have liked us, our work in the last 5 years. That's why people have not voted for us. So that is why people in India, people also accept it as people's verdict. People's verdict means the common people's judgment. Whatever the common people's is the judgment to whichever party people will vote for, the ruling party or the defeated party, they will accept it in that way. So these are the 3 different ways which says that yes, elections are conducted in a democratic way in India. Now, even though elections are conducted in a democratic way in India, there are certain challenges to free and fair elections. Like there's a question mark: is it really conducted in a free and fair? Are elections really free and fair? So to the entire electoral system, also certain challenges are there. Now, what are those elections? Now, what are those challenges? Candidates and parties with lot of money may not be sure of their victory, but they do enjoy a big and unfair advantage over smaller political parties and independents. So if a political party or if a candidate is from a very rich background, all right, so they have an advantage. Why? Because they keep on spending a lot of money. The money power is more. So in that case, those smaller parties, sometimes they might become disadvantageous, all right. Number two, in some parts of the country, candidates with criminal connection also has the power to get a ticket for competing the election. So in India, sometimes it happens the person who does not have any proper qualification, who has criminal background, those persons or those people also get ticket for from the a political party to contest election. So that is again a big challenge. Somebody who is with a political who is with a criminal background, how can a person get a ticket for contesting the election? Number three, some family elections, some families tend to dominate the political parties, and tickets are distributed within the family only. Like from in a political party, the father, then the mother, brother-in-law, brother, everyone will get tickets. So it is like the political party is totally family-based political party. So in that way also it becomes unfair. Supposedly, if the father loses, then the mother will win. Sometimes the chances are more if from a particular family, all the if in a political party all most of the family members are contesting elections or they get tickets, all right. So this is again another challenge for free and fair election. Then next challenge is very often elections offer little choices to ordinary citizens, for both the major parties are quite similar to each other, both in politics and practice. So sometimes what happen, the options are less. Now if there are if when you're going to cast their votes, you see only three political parties are there, and three of them are only not equally good, they're not so good. So you have no options to choose for a fourth one. So sometimes when you don't have options, also much options given to you, so then also we cannot vote for the correct political party. So that is why there should be more of options, more of political parties, so that the person who is casting the vote can have a very clear mind whom to vote. And the lastly, again, which is already repeated, the smaller parties and independent candidates, they have to suffer a lot because of the bigger parties. So bigger parties, they will be financially more powerful. So these smaller parties or these independent candidates who are contesting elections, they might suffer a lot. All right, so these are the different challenges to free and fair elections. Now, to conclude the entire chapter, we can say that even though these challenges not exist in India, these challenges does not only exist in India, they exist almost in many of the democracies. All right. So what is our duty as a citizen of the country? Organizations and different social activists, they are demanding that the electoral system of India should be changed. All right, so that unfair practices does not take place and free and fair elections are conducted in our country. So with that, students, we have come to an end of this chapter. I hope you have understood this entire chapter called electoral politics. We shall meet in the next class with a new chapter. Till then, everyone take care. Thank you.